listeners, when you listen to this, you can hopefully hear that there is a big difference in how it feels. Not just that it's obviously higher or lower, it's a completely different emotion. And whatever you want to call this, it's hard to put your finger on it. Whatever it does to you when you listen to it.
Like, what is this song about? What do we want to say with this song?
Yeah. I think the vocal is always the most important thing.
If this song is really difficult to sing in the studio, what do we do live? Are we gonna sing it like that every night? When you get older, you just cannot hit those high things. It is what it is.
You're talking about experiences. I've had a very painful one on this topic, by the way.
This is the Self-Recording Band Podcast, the show where we help you make exciting records on your own, wherever you are, DIY style. Let's go.
Welcome to part 2 of this episode. This time we're talking about key. Last week, if you haven't listened to that one, we talked about the tempo and feel and groove of a song and how that all affects the feel of the song and the impact. So if you want to start with that, go back, listen to the last one, and then continue here. But it doesn't really matter. You can also just listen to this one if this is interesting to you. But they kind of are on the same topic. So last time it was on the tempo. This time it's on key. But both things are not technical, like not mixing or recording related. It's about the songs themselves, because we believe that choosing the right tempo, playing this with the right feel and groove, and then also picking the right key, the right tuning of your guitars and all of that, that this has a bigger impact than any plugin or mixing technique could ever have. And so this is why we make these episodes. Too many people neglect these topics, and we want to help you make better sounding songs eventually, right? So my name is Benedictine. I'm the host of the show. Welcome. If you're already a listener, welcome back. If you're new, so good to have you. On the show, we help you make exciting sounding records from your home studio, your jam space. It's called the Self-Recording Band Podcast. I'm a mixing engineer. I run a mixing studio called Outback Recordings. We mix a lot of songs every year, and I've been doing that full time for 15 years now. And everything we've learned over the years from working with so many artists, we share here on this platform. So I hope you enjoy this. And I'm doing this with my friend and co-host from Spain, Manel Espinosa Berenguer. Hello, Manel. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Now I have light, so that's something. Yeah, as you know, I'm Manel Espinosa. I'm a music producer from Spain, and I, of course, enjoy producing and mixing records from interesting artists from all over the world.
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome.
Improving my introduction every week.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. I'm always not sure if I should do it or you should do it, but I think it's cool that you tell people what you do, because it might also change, and then. So, by the way, is it just Manel Espinosa or is it Manel Espinosa Berenguer? Is it like the full thing?
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's the full thing, but sometimes we just. Yeah, whatever you want.
Yeah, okay, all right.
My full name is Manel Espinosa Berenguer, but
okay, yeah,
it's so long, right? So
yeah, it is.
But you pronounce it right, so
that's awesome.
You can just keep doing it.
Cool, perfect. Okay, so on this topic, or maybe one thing I just want, I'm very glad that we actually got the last episode out. I need to say this because there was like a disaster happening in Spain with the power going away for an entire day or so. And but you managed to upload the episode in time for me to post it. So I'm very grateful for you doing that late at night and getting it done. I was a little afraid that we wouldn't have an episode this week, but it all worked out. So yeah, if you're listening to this and you're in Spain, you know what I'm talking about. This was quite a thing this week.
Yeah. But I got to experience new things, like going to a silent and dark gym in Spain and then reading for like 5 hours.
With candlelight?
I couldn't do anything else. Yeah.
It's funny how it's actually crazy, like how dependent we are on all these things, the cell phones and just being able to, you couldn't even make phone calls really, like, and how dependent we are on all of that. And if the power just goes out for one day, like, what do you do? Right? It's like actually crazy.
Totally isolated, and there were no traffic lights in the street, so it was crazy with the cars and all that, and people going to the supermarket and buy everything they could,
Oh man.
crazy.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah. Well, all right. One thing that and I promise I'll get to the episode in a second. One thing I want to bring up before we dive into this topic today is that if this episode will be out a week from now, so this is going to be early May, and we have just officially rolled out the update that I was talking about on the podcast before, where if you now get any of our courses that we offer at the Self-Recording Band, you can automatically get access to the Self-Recording Syndicate, our coaching community, for 90 days. And then you can either just keep the course and leave the community, or you can stay in the community. You can upgrade to one-on-one mentoring. But we kind of simplified what we do because I really want to focus on the core thing that we offer, which is the syndicate. It's the most valuable thing in this community. And we just rolled that out. I sent out a bunch of emails. So if you're interested in that and you haven't seen those emails, please reach out or just go to our website. I've updated it there as well. Basically, how it works now is that if you want to work with us and get into the syndicate, then there are two ways to do that. The first one is you can work directly with me one-on-one, and in that case, you'll get your own custom step-by-step roadmap. I listen to your songs personally. I give you feedback. I tell you what I would do next. I create a full plan for you. We do that now before we even start, and then we pitch that plan to you, and then you can decide if that is a good idea or not. And then we work together, and you just do it step by step until the record is done or the project or whatever you're working on. And this is like full one-on-one support. And all you need to do is do the work, upload the music, get the feedback, and then implement. We'll walk you through step by step, unlimited access to me, full one-on-one coaching. So this is option number one. If you want to do that, click the button on our website, theselfrecorడింgband.com. Fill out a quick questionnaire, and then if we think you're a great fit, we jump on a call with you. That costs you nothing. We just talk to you, listen to your music. I give you feedback, and I create that plan with you, and then you can decide if you want to do it or not. So that's option one. Option two is you can buy any of our video courses that we have on different topics. So we have one on recording, one on mixing, or actually a bundle on mixing, and then one on editing. And you can also get them all as a bundle. But if you buy any of those, you go through the course on your own at your own pace. And then you also get access to the Self-Recording Syndicate, the same community as the one-on-one people, for 90 days. You don't have your own step-by-step thing, and you don't get like my personal feedback and all that stuff that I just talked about. But you can still join us live 2 times a week when we do group calls. You can still interact in the community, and you can get help getting the most out of these courses that you just bought. So if you prefer to just work through the video courses on your own and ask an occasional question in the community, that's a great way to start. And then if you feel like you could use even more support, you can always upgrade to the one-on-one or just leave after 90 days and keep your courses. So one of those two ways, it's now all on the website at theselfrecordingband.com. Choose your adventure, and I hope to see you inside of the syndicate very soon. Now that is out. Yeah, no, I have no problem pitching that stuff because I know some people will leave the show when I say things like that because they just want to hear the topic. That's fine. But I really believe in what we do here, and I have to mention this because I want people in there because they all get great results. So I have no problem annoying the shit out of you with my pitches here.
Yeah, and I believe too. So
yeah,
I recommend you guys to just try.
Yeah, totally. Manel wouldn't be here without that, by the way. Like, that's the other thing. Anyway, now to the topic that, again, you prepared, and I'm very grateful for that. Last time you did the tempo thing. This time you did the key thing. We have audio examples as well. Today, I'm not sure what to expect because last time it was pretty challenging.
Yeah.
You played a little game there with me, and it started out well and then got way worse. Pretty quickly. I was actually very proud after my first one, where I'm like, I got this right. Yeah, I got such great ears. And then the next one came in, and I completely got it wrong. And then, anyway, we'll see how I do today.
Today's gonna be easier. You're not gonna be playing a guinea pig role today.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I appreciate that. Yeah, cool. So walk us through those things that we're going to be doing. I mean, I think most people agree that obviously the key of the song matters, but I also think that a lot of people don't write their songs in the correct key because they might not think about, the singer. Maybe they just write a song on the guitar because it's a cool riff and then never think about whether or not that is the right tuning or the key of the song. But like, tell us what made you think about this topic and what you want people to take away from this.
Yeah. Also, like sometimes it is not as easy to change the key because sometimes we only know some chords and we sing over those chords and we don't even think about maybe doing the same thing but a couple more frets or less frets or whatever, right? So if when you change your key, if you're not changing the tuning of the strings, you're also challenging yourself as an instrumentalist because you need to have a better chord knowledge, I guess.
Yeah.
But the thing is, as we said in the first part of this episode or whatever, mixing is cool. Mixing is great. We enjoy it. It is important. Of course, it is important. But mixing cannot fix a bad song. So the more you can do before mixing, the better it's gonna be your song and your mix, basically. So last week we talked about tempo, and this week we're gonna talk about key, because like changing the key directly affects how the instruments sound, and also which frequencies are those gonna be placed, right? So of course it is important, but the most important thing, I think, especially if you're playing like music with vocals, is that the key in which you are singing is key to to express the feelings you want to express to the fullest. If you think about, for example, Linkin Park, which is a band that I have on my mind every time, I think that a lot of the Chester Bennington sound, it is about pushing his voice to the limit. Like, it's like you can feel that he's suffering, or at least he plays that role really, really good, because like he goes so high. So if you take that down, whatever, 2 semitones, it's not gonna feel the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it is key, right? But the first topic that I want to put on the table is
I thought you were gonna kill a bug or something there.
Flashy stuff for the camera. First thing is that
it will make no sense for the people not watching this on YouTube, by the way. But anyways,
there are music there's music which is based on the vocals, which is probably the most of the commercial music, I guess, like where the vocals have the main role.
Yeah.
But with like more riff-based music, like, I don't know, rock, metal, and stuff like that, the guitars and also the bass have like an important role, because a lot of the riffs are played, in lower strings or open strings, and it's not as easy to change the key unless you change the tuning of your guitar. So first, I want to know your perspective on this, because you've worked with a lot of rock, punk, metal, whatever bands, and how do you feel about the importance of the vocals and the tuning and all that?
Yes. So I absolutely agree with everything you said so far, especially the whole Linkin Park thing that you mentioned. Like, there's two common scenarios where sometimes, man, I need to structure my thoughts before I talk. So, so in the music that like the genres that I worked a lot in, what happens is that often the guitar players write the song, and it starts with a riff. Oftentimes the riff is the thing that somebody has an idea for a riff and they play that, they like it, and then they build the song around it. Now, sometimes or oftentimes the band has their kind of tuning that they play in most of the time. So some bands just play in drop D or drop C or standard, whatever, down tuned or not. But they have their thing for whatever reason. Sometimes there's no real good reason for it, but like it is what it is. And then they just play that riff, and an open chord sounds different compared to like a power chord somewhere higher up the string. And so they just listen to that riff and they play whatever sounds best in their tuning on their guitar. And then they put the song together, and then the poor vocalist has to make something work with that riff, and it is what it is. And they don't write it with the range of the vocalist in mind, basically.
Yeah.
And then one of two things often happens. And of course, like more experienced, better bands don't do it like that, but still, a lot of people do. And what then happens is one of two things. Either it is what you said, that it is a little, like, maybe it's not high enough so that the energy does not really come through the way it could, because sometimes, like, if you hit that sweet spot where it's the top of like the range of the vocalist, and they have to really struggle a bit to hit the higher notes, but if they nail it, it just sounds awesome because all the emotion is there, and it's high energy. And like you said, you can hear that they're struggling and suffering a bit, but that is exactly the sound that you want. If that is not the case, if you're like a little below that, it can just sound much more boring than it could. So that is scenario one. And the other scenario is that it's already outside of their comfort zone, that they just cannot hit some of those notes anymore. And then they have to go an entire octave down for some things, or maybe there is no room to add a harmony on top, although that would be really great. Or there's like, it's just sometimes they just go too far and they are already outside of the comfort zone. And very rarely do they think or talk about the range of the singer and then try to write songs that work for that, because that would require to either not use some of the chords they love, or it would require them to change the tuning, or they just don't think about it as a possibility at all. And so yeah, I think it is absolutely important, and not just in heavy music, but in general. If you make like acoustic pop ballads or whatever, then also the emotion's going to be totally different. Something that you'd sing very quietly in a voice that you would like, you know, in a lower voice, in a lower, at a lower volume, has a completely different vibe compared to like belting and really getting loud on higher notes. It's like completely different. And yeah. And so, and every person's different, of course, and like it is just so important. And the vocal is, in most genres, the most important thing. So it's kind of funny that a lot of people don't treat it like that, and it's almost like an afterthought in songwriting, where you'd write everything else and then you just have to work with the instrumental the way it is, where in reality you should actually write around the vocalist, which is what great songwriters in pop actually do. They write a song for a specific artist, taking into account their range, their voice, what they do well, what they, you know, their kind of thing. And that's why it works so well when you tailor make a song for someone like that.
Yeah, so I think, you know, the thing is that you need to have, like, this is a tool in, you know, one more tool in, you know, all the other tools that you have to make your song. And, you know, it's better if you have that information, and you can, at least you have the option to choose between give the priority to the vocals or give it to something else. But if you don't have the option, you can't. And we are here to give you the option.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, I think, like, you know, we could talk about this for hours, because like vocals are weird. Like, it's not, you know, we've kind of simplified it here, but it's not all about being too up or too down or whatever. There are also like spots where it's uncomfortable for you to sing, and it doesn't have to be the highest part. For whatever reason, maybe someone who did some studies on that can tell us. But, you know, it's not, I would say it's not objective, you know. As you said, like, every singer is a different world, right? And also, with regards to the keys in which we sing and in which we record the vocals, should we think about then how are we going to perform this later if we go to a show or not? Because, I think for the most part, we always have to think about the best for the song, the best for the production, for the recording when we are recording, right? But sometimes it is really difficult to like put that aside from playing it live, right? Because as you said, if you experiment with different tunings, what are you going to do with that when you play them live? Are you going to bring 3 guitars?
Yeah.
Can you use how do you call, well, now the most of the multi effects for the guitar, they already have effects that work pretty well when changing tunings and stuff like that. So yeah, what are you gonna do with that? Or if this song is really difficult to sing in the studio, what do we do live? Are we gonna sing it like that every night? Are we gonna change the melody live like some bands do, especially older bands who, because when you get older, you just cannot hit those high things. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe
In many cases, yeah.
some singers that are touched by the hands of the singing god, they can still do it. But but
Yeah, no.
yeah. So what do you think about it? Like it's because it's difficult.
Yeah, I totally agree. Especially the last point where I had this often where after a couple of, after properly warming up and then some, getting the vibe right in the studio, you might nail that magic take, but you cannot do that same procedure every night when you're on stage. And then also you have to sing whatever, 10, 12, 20 songs in a row. And if they're all at your limit, very hard to pull that off. And then if you're on tour and you have to do it for like 20 nights in a row and all, like it's just very, very hard. So I agree. It might not be possible. So you might have to change parts of the melody. You might have to I still think I still have the opinion, like exactly what you said, basically, that I would still serve the song in the studio and make the best possible recording, because those are two different experiences and there's always a way to make it work live. But yeah, it is, for some people, it is definitely something to consider. And honestly, the best, like when it comes to how difficult it is to do it live, the best answer is, I think, to just practice a lot and get really good and get some vocal coaching, which a lot of people just don't do. If you're struggling in the studio and you want to bring that to the stage, get some coaching, practice, put in a couple of months of real work before you go on tour, and then you'll be able to nail that. A lot of people are. So it's just the bands that they only show up to the shows or then for the studio session and don't really practice in between. They are, of course, struggling. But yeah, that's, I think, the best answer. But I wouldn't necessarily make a compromise on the record just because it's going to be hard live. I don't think I would do that. Different tunings, yes, of course. That works. Depends on the genre. You would rarely see a heavy band use a capo or something. It just doesn't make sense, if you have to go up high really, and then it just sounds completely different. However, in other genres, it can absolutely work. I just experienced that a lot lately where I play a lot more guitar than I used to. I just enjoy it right now very much, like just acoustic guitar at home. And what I do is I kind of write my own stuff, but I also play along with just favorite songs of mine, or I learn certain songs basically, because that also helps me become a better writer. I just analyze, the typical thing. And when I try to, I listen to a song that I like and I play it on the acoustic guitar and I try to sing it, sometimes by accident, the song is exactly in my range. I can just play it the way it is and sing to it, and it's awesome. And my voice is never really as awesome as those people, but I can sing it. It's in my range. But sometimes it's just, or most of the time, it's absolutely not my range. And I have to use, like, the capo is my best friend. I just I learn to play the song, and then I just find the fret that works for me. And then it sounds different because it's higher, but for those types of songs, it works. And I just have to find whatever works for me. But it's very rare that I just play along and it's immediately right for me. And even just going up 1 or 2 frets is like a world of a difference sometimes. You can go from absolutely not able to hit that higher note to, oh yeah, that's actually doable with just 1 or 2 frets, going up or down. But So yeah, in some genres, this is an option to just change the tuning, use a capo, do whatever. With MIDI instruments, it's very easy anyways. In heavy music or rock, sometimes very hard to do just because the open strings have, they have a sound and a certain tuning has a sound. I think what really matters at the end of the day is that you need to know what you actually want to do and what your singer sounds like, and just embrace that. And, if I don't know, it's like, yes, the riffs are important, but still, if you have a vocalist that sounds a certain way and they sound awesome in a certain range, I would just find a way to make songs that work with that. And if that means we don't do drop D, but now we're playing standard C or just a standard tuning, or we do a baritone guitar, or we use a 7-string, or we use whatever, then so be it. That's just what we're going to do. And then we make our music, sound a little bit different. But I would not make a big compromise with the vocal usually. And if it's just screaming and all that, it's maybe doesn't matter anyways. But if it's melodic, I think the vocal is always the most important thing. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I think also another thing is that it is important to separate songwriting from like practicing or your musical skills. Because when it comes to practicing, especially when we're talking about singing, I mean, to get better, you have to push yourself sometimes, right? So if you want to sing higher notes, maybe you should not drop down every song all the time. Sometimes you need to experiment with the edges, but I think now we're talking about, we're making this song to sound the best possible way for you.
Yeah.
And so every time that I work with artists, one of the things that I always do when they send me the demos is telling them send me the demo twice with at least 2 different keys, because that way I can hear your voice and see, maybe we should go with this or that, or, sometimes we change it, sometimes we don't, but
yeah, and you never know their range before you hear that, really, right? Some people have a pretty huge range and can do surprisingly crazy things, and other people have a very narrow, small range, and you need to work within that.
Yeah. So I think now we're gonna go to the examples, because the thing is that the different keys can radically change the feeling of the song, and in these examples we're gonna see it, because for example with my voice, it has an automatic distortion pedal when it goes higher.
All right.
And I mean, I could practice and change it, but it is what it is. I like it like it is. So yeah, I guess we should just hear or listen to both examples and then talk about it.
Okay, cool. One more question I have, Manel, before we do this, though. This is going to be about the vocals mainly also, right? Like you said. But then we talked a lot about vocals now, but what about, if it's an instrumental song, or if maybe the vocal is not the most important thing for whatever reason, or maybe if it's really just screams or something that's not melodic, or where the range doesn't matter as much, do you still think that experimenting with key is a good idea and can change the way a song feels, even if it's just instruments?
Yeah. I mean, especially if you think about reed instruments, or a trumpet or whatever, that those work with air. So it's kind of like the voice,
Yeah.
There are some places on their range that sound better, or not better, but more powerful, or for example, people tend to think that the trombone sounds good very low, because it's the the lowest instrument of the typical 3, the trumpet, saxophone, and trombone, but it turns out that it doesn't sound as good when it's so loud. So
yeah,
of
totally.
course.
I think that too. Also, with other instruments like a guitar or even synthesizers, back to my guitar example, what I noticed when I learned some of these songs is, or when I write my own songs, is that it might just be my instrument. It might be a general guitar thing. I don't know. But what I've learned is when I do that all the time, I try different frets, different ways. There's a couple different ways you can do the same chord on a guitar. So I try open chords. I try borrowed power chords, whatever, bar chords. The thing is, sometimes when I put the capo on and I try that on different frets, then I like some of them and others not, but it's not a general like this needs to be lower. It can happen that I like it on whatever the 5th fret and then I don't like it on the 4th, but I like it again on the 3rd. And I'm like, why is that? There's some chords or some keys, at least to me, just don't feel right and others instantly do. And it's an immediate thing. I just start playing it and I'm like, nah, that's not it. And then I try a different one and oh yeah, that feels better. And maybe it's also the instrument itself because it resonates at certain frequencies, right? Every acoustic instrument is different. So maybe it's just that. Maybe it's a general thing. But I do think it feels completely different. And you got to figure out like whatever sounds best in that case. So it's just something worth exploring because to me, it's a very, very big difference every time I try.
Yeah. I'm not an expert and I don't have a lot of information about this, but there are I think psychological studies about different keys and they are somehow, for some reason, they are different. And also it would not be crazy to think that, given that we've been listening to music played in open chords for years and years, that might sound more familiar for some reasons. And also there's the fact that the guitars or bass or the most of those instruments, they are not perfect. So they won't be exactly in tune. So it might be that some chords sound more in tune and some chords sound less in tune and stuff like that. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Yep. Cool. Just wanted to get your thoughts on that. So let's go to the not instrumentals, the examples.
Yep.
And let's listen to it. So it's you again doing this?
Yes, it's me singing "The Messenger" by Linkin Park. By the way, you should probably listen to the original song because it's crazy how Chester sang that song. And you'll see, by the way, if you hear it, how he's suffering through the whole song.
Okay. Yeah.
I cannot get there, but
we'll see. I mean, I'm not going to say anything now. I just want to hear it first.
Okay.
I have 2 files here. This is correct, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to play the first one. And do we need any information before I do that?
No, it's just me playing guitar and singing in 2 different keys. And you will notice the difference.
Okay,
because
let's do that.
It's pretty big, that difference in the keys.
Okay, let's do that. Here is example 1.
When you've suffered enough, your spirit is breaking, you're crawling desperate from the fight. Remember you're loved, you always will be. These melodies will bring you right back home where life leaves us blind. Love keeps us good. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Okay, here's example number 2.
When you've suffered enough and your spirit is breaking, you're crawling desperate from the fight. Remember you're loved and you always will be. These melodies will bring you right back home
First of all, it's always hard to believe for me that it's your voice, because when I hear you sing, you have such a different talking and singing voice, and also such a versatile singing voice. I've heard your pop stuff too, and there were incredible moments in those songs where I'm like, no way, that's Manel. And you have a great voice, really,
By the
and
way,
very versatile. Yeah.
no auto-tune or anything.
No, this was no tuning, not at all. Yeah.
No, nothing. No.
Yeah. No, it's awesome, man. Like really, it's always surprising. There's so much, the raspiness and all that. Anyway, however, and I've heard cleaner stuff too. You can not only do the raspy stuff. That's the thing. Anyway, I think this is interesting. I'd love to hear your thoughts, because I expected this to be a clear thing where I'm like, oh yeah, this is way better for this song. I kind of like both for different reasons.
Yeah.
And now you would have to, like, if I was producing this, I would have to make a decision what I think feels better, because both could work, but for different reasons. And these are very, very important decisions, much more important than any EQ plugin or whatever you could choose. So what are your thoughts about it, or what would you prefer and why?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that as long as you can successfully sing both, it's all about what you want to get out of the song, Like, from my point of view, if you want a more like intimate sort of feeling, I would choose the first one.
Yeah.
But if you want to make the listener like feel the pain, I would go for the second one. Yeah, that's what I would say. Like, in terms of technique or whatever, I could sing both, and both were fine. Like, the first one wasn't too low yet, and the second one wasn't too high. Like, it was something I could handle, but it sounds very different. And I don't know the difference. It is maybe like 1.5 tones or something like that.
If the labeling of the files is correct, then the one is in A and the other's in C.
Yeah, so
it's not that crazy. So it's a different kind of pain between the two to me. So both have, like, the other one also sounds like suffering and pain, but a little differently. Hard decision, totally different though. So yeah, to me, like, always when you go higher up, I mean, probably for that to really work for me in terms of like struggling, suffering, pain, I would have probably tried to go even higher. I don't know if that would have been possible for you, but the second one still, that didn't sound to me like you were reaching your limit.
Yeah.
So you could potentially try to go as high as possible until it's really hard for you to hit the higher notes, and then see what that sounds like. Those two were both, at least that's what it sounded like to me, relatively clearly still in your comfort zone, but just with a different vibe.
Yeah.
But you can hopefully, listeners, when you listen to this, you can hopefully hear that there is a big difference in how it feels. Not just that it's obviously higher or lower. It's a completely different emotion. And whatever you want to call this, it's hard to put your finger on it. Whatever it does to you when you listen to it. I personally, it's a feel thing. I cannot describe it, but the first one, and it might be because we listened to that first, I don't know, but the first one hit me a little differently, and I preferred that one. Mm-hmm. The second one was cool in other ways, but the first one had just, I don't know, that was unexpected, and there was like a raspy, I don't know, hard to describe. It just, that's what I mean. It just feels differently, and if I would follow my gut and probably go with the first one on this, but I would have loved to hear one where you're really struggling and then see how that sounds. And maybe with a full loud band arrangement, the loud one would definitely be better, probably be better, the higher one, just because it's more powerful, more energetic, it's more desperate, and you kind of scream against the band, with the acoustic version, the lower one can work. I think if you did the lower one with a full band, it might be hard to get the vocal to cut through even, and it might sound weak compared. So that's also, context also matters. But to me, in an acoustic setting, the lower one works, and with a band, I would have loved to hear wherever it is that you start to struggle.
So there you go. Like, if you have your band and you want to make an acoustic version, maybe it's better to change the key.
Yeah.
Like at least there's an option there to like try it, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. And the main takeaway of all of this, we don't have to make this episode super long. I just really want people to actually think about it, because the main takeaway is put thought into this and actually try it, because I know for a fact that so many bands don't ever do that. They just write on their guitar and then they say, here, we have a song, write lyrics and sing to this. And then the poor singer has to do their best to make something happen. And, and that is not a good place to be in, because then what will happen is the stuff that they would want to sing, they cannot do. And then they will write like a melody that kind of works, but that is not ideal for the song. And then that's the reason why a lot of choruses are not really a hook, not really catchy, because it's just something that they have written because that's the only thing they can sing to this riff, basically. And the stuff that would really sound good, they cannot, because it's outside of their range. And so if you changed the key, you could write an entirely different melody and make your chorus or whatever much better. So a lot of songs could be a lot better, more catchy, more memorable, if you just paid attention to that and thought about it like that. And I know from my own experience, I've worked with a lot of bands where the chorus was not really a chorus, and the big bridge after the chorus that was supposed to be even bigger also didn't quite work, but simply because what would have worked was not doable for the person. And that's just not a good idea to do. And just think about that. And like every person is so different. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, so I think at the end, the most important thing is to have, like, to take into account what the song is about. Like, what is this song about? What do we want to say with this song?
Yeah.
Do we want to transmit any kind of anger? Then we need to get there one way or another, right? What possibly happens with rock/metal, whatever bands, is that a lot of those songs start with a riff, right? Like the guitar player would write the riff or whatever and send it to the others, and then from there you build the song, right? So the thing is, I guess, be open-minded and be, open to, rework things along the process. I'm not saying you have to change the way you make the songs, because sometimes starting with a riff might be the answer, or the way you like to work or whatever. But if you do that and then the singer does the thing, their thing, then be open to adapt to that.
Yeah.
I would say also, and I think it's interesting, even if you start with the riff, it would probably be interesting if you know at least about like the topic of the song. Like,
yes.
Even if you don't know the lyrics, but at least you know the context. So that can maybe, influence the way you write the riff.
100%. I totally believe that knowing what the song is about changes all of those decisions to a degree, even mixing decisions. Like when I mix for people, I always ask for the lyrics. I oftentimes hear them anyways when I mix, and you understand what it's about. But I still request the lyrics from people just to be sure, because if I know what the song's about, I can make it feel a little more like that if I want to. And it starts with writing, of course, but even in mixing, you can still do something like that. And I totally agree. And I think you have two options when you start writing a song. When you start, when you want to start with the riff, then start with the riff, do whatever you feel sounds good and it's cool. And then, like you said, adapt whenever you run into a situation where the singer cannot perform what would be best for the song. And that just means find a different tuning, usually, because if you want to keep the same riff, then you have to down tune or, switch to a baritone or do whatever, use a drop tuning. I don't know. Find a different way to play the chords, or I don't know. That is one option. The other option, and that might be a fun thing for a lot of bands to try, is maybe don't start with the guitar. Even if you're a guitar and riff band, maybe come up with a chord progression on the computer with just some MIDI sounds or whatever. That is, a different instrument where you can easily go up and down. figure out a melody to that for the chorus or something, ignore what that would be on the guitar, and then once you have it and you know what would feel good for the vocal and what would be a great melody, then find a way to make that work on the guitar compared to the other way around. That could be an interesting way to switch things up. I totally get, though, that in some genres it's just riff-based and then you only have so many options. But even switching between standard E, half a step down, standard D, maybe drop, like between C and E, you have so many options, and that is a world of a difference. Like you could hear in that example from Manel, between A and C, it's not that far. Same would be true between E and C. You have so many options that you can do with a normal guitar that usually somewhere in there will be something that works. So.
Yeah, so there you go. Like, I think as a conclusion,
Yeah.
Yeah, we could say that you guys have these two elements, that two tools that you can use, which are key and tempo, and are super important to like make your songs as good as you can before any production and mixing and all that.
Totally. And if you're just playing power chords and not really open chords, and if you're also not playing like super heavy riffs where the open string is so important, then you can do whatever you want anyways, because it doesn't really matter if you start your riff on the 3rd or the 5th fret or whatever. If it's just, those tuning things only are important for people where you need the open chords or where you need the open strings for the massive chugs or whatever. But if it's a punk rock band and you play like simple power chords, just move them around and try something else. Yeah.
Yeah, but play open chords from time to time.
What is the sorry? Play
open chords from time to time.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. Yeah. No, I mean 3 chords forever. There's the whole genre around this. No, no, I totally get it. Yeah. All right. I hope this was helpful and food for thought for you. Some things to try. I think it is something more people should try, like we said. Let us know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. Let us know in the Facebook community, wherever you can interact with us. Give us feedback on this. Share your experiences. One final story maybe before we wrap this up is just talking about experiences. I've had a very painful one on this topic, by the way. And if you have a similar one, please share. I was in a band where we had a singer. I was just playing bass. It was a punk rock band, melodic, but not just 3 power chords. It was a little more than that, but also not super heavy. Anyway, we had a great vocalist, great voice, great range, notes that I would never be able to hit, and especially not the way he did it with his voice. The singer left the band. We still had shows booked. We wanted to continue, so we split up the songs between our guitar player and myself, and like he sang some of them and I sang some of them. Some songs we kind of shared, and because we did some harmonies before that anyway. So yeah, we did it and we got it done for a couple of shows, but we were struggling and suffering because the songs were the way they were. We didn't change anything about the tuning. I did not have the voice of our singer, and our guitar player did not have that voice either. And so we had to change some of the melodies, which turned out to be a lot more boring than the original songs because without those high notes, the energy was gone. I tried to nail and hit some of those high notes that did go well sometimes not so much. And I know that there's video footage of a couple of songs live where I'm like, that is super painful to watch, honestly, especially knowing what it could sound like with the right voice. And I was thinking the entire time, man, yes, I don't have that voice anyway, but if that would be a different key, I would at least be able to do something similar, but I'm struggling and suffering so much through this, it doesn't make sense. And then this actually was part of what led to the end of this band, because we were just overwhelmed with the whole task of trying to replace that amazing singer in a completely different range. And like, that just really, I don't know, that was hard for us to continue then. It was frustrating and it was, not a good situation to be in. So, key matters. Absolutely. Don't make your vocalist suffer.
Were you playing bass at the same time?
Yes.
That's even worse.
Yeah.
The singer was only singing, right?
The singer was only singing, yes. I had to play bass too. Didn't make it easier. Yeah. There were some grooves also where I was... With our drummer, like we had this thing where some a little more intricate grooves where I had to be spot on the kick drum, but it was like against, like in between what the guitars were doing, and like if you have to do those rhythmic things, but then and sing at the same time, it was just hard. And then also the task that now you have to come up, if you want to ever make new songs, now you have to come up with lyrics and then probably change everything about how we write songs, because obviously the old keys didn't work. So now we have to do something else. And like losing that singer and with him that range and that comfort zone that worked so well actually completely killed the band, honestly. Like that completely killed it.
Yeah, I think we mentioned this couple, like some weeks ago when we talked with Malcolm for his last episode.
Yeah.
Where, changing the singer is the most traumatic thing a band can do. Like, because it might change everything.
Yeah.
Like, or you find a guy with exactly the same range or whatever, or you are going to have problems. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So let's wrap this up finally. Again, let us know your feedback in the comments. If you want to figure out what works best for your voice and you need an outside perspective and you need someone that makes you record it in different keys and then tell you what works and why and experiment with all those things, go to manelitomusica.com. That's exactly what Manel does. He'll figure out what works for you, find your voice, find your ideal range and all those things and make your songs feel the best they can feel, I think. So do that, please. And if you are trying to, refine that stuff, but then also, capture it and just maybe you already have that figured out. It's just a little refinement, but you want to record your music and finally make that record and put all these like demos and all the things that you have on your hard drive, put them out there in the world, finally finish those songs, then go to the selfrecordingband.com and talk to us how we can help you, because we can help you record, edit, mix, master, whatever it is that you need. We can teach you how to do that. We can give you full one-on-one mentoring support, like I mentioned in the beginning. We can get you started with just a simple course on a simple topic. Whatever it is, talk to us, reach out to us. We'll help you find the best solution for you. And with that, I say thank you for listening to this episode today, and I'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.